I was 16 years old, sitting in a hospital waiting room, and I was done. Not done waiting, but done pretending that any of this was normal. Because I'd spent the last 40 minutes being my father's doctor, his nurse, his translator, his everything. And I was just 16. And I want to tell you something I don't want to admit. I wrote this talk in English, then I translated it into Albanian to make sure it made sense. And then I translated it back into English, and at some point my brain goes, you know what? Just go and talk to the people. Because the whole point of this talk is not having the perfect words. It's what happens when systems don't give you the space to find them. My father is not a man who breaks easily. He grew up under the dictatorship communist regime that shaped my home country for more than 45 years. Eventually he made it to this country with no safety net, no connections, no one waiting for him. He's not an easy man, and somehow a hospital intake form made him disappear. It was just a routine follow-up appointment, nothing serious. The nurse had asked him a question, a very simple question, and my father froze. Not because he didn't know the answer, because the words wouldn't just come fast enough for a room that was not going to wait. I saw this man who carried our family across continents just disappear across the walls of that room. His shoulder dropped, he took a step back, and I was very confused, but I did what I always had learned to do, to become his voice. My 16 years old vocabulary was the bridge between my father and a system that couldn't see him. And this gap between data and context is everywhere. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Right now as we speak, and we all know that my father's story is not rare, as we speak, immigrant parents are really struggling to fill out a school enrollment form in a language that isn't theirs. Patients with chronic illnesses have learned to translate their pain into whatever the chart needs. Adults, real adults, are nodding themselves into meetings pretending that they know what's going on rather than admit they're completely lost. And we look at them and say, well, they're so resilient, but why are we calling it resilience? Why are we not calling it what it actually is? A design failure. Because we look at them and say, you are trying to fit into a system that was not designed with you in mind. Great job, good for you for making it work and figure it out. That's actually not resilience. That's people trying to shrink themselves to fit a shape and a form that was not built with them in mind. And what's the problem? The solution to that problem is not more data, more automation, more AI, more shipping more products faster than before. That's why I wanted to introduce empathy as infrastructure. We need more context, not more data. One patient at a time, one customer at a time. Now let me give you an example. Hospitals, for example, use software design tools to catch warnings, to notify doctors for lethal doses, drug-drug interactions, missed allergies. At some point, all of these warnings catch too many low-stake ones, routine ones, redundant ones. At some point, the doctors miss even the critical ones, not because they're careless, because there's an alert fatigue. And there was a study at the Journal of American Medical Informatics Association that found that doctors override more than 90% of these alerts. Yes, 90%. And as I said, they are not careless doctors. At some point, they dismiss all of those not unnecessary, not emergency ones that they miss the most critical ones. And how did we end up here? Because the whole point was always more data, more solution, more metrics, fancy dashboards, more automation. But it's not. The solution to that is empathy. Empathy as infrastructure, which really changed how I think about everything. Empathy is not a soft skill, it's not a virtue. It's not something you add at the end. Empathy should be part of the foundation, just like a building. When we have those low bearing walls, we need to implement that in the foundation. Because we need more context. And how you build context is through empathy as infrastructure. And I've been on the other side of that because I was also part of the product team that we built this really beautiful product. Really interesting interesting features, clean metrics, clean flow, all green. We were all so proud of ourselves. Just for a user to test it and say, this app sucks, it makes me feel stupid. And for me, it was not only disappointing but also very familiar, because I could see that on my father's face years ago, maybe yet to this day as well. And the approach was really interesting. We, instead of building more features, instead of going to the marketing team, instead of using all the revenue to build a fancier product, we slowed down, took a step back, and started to really implement more prompts and questions to generate more context. So the answers that we would get would be, we would feel like a confession from the customer, the user, but it would really give us the context, so we could really achieve that customer satisfaction. And everything is changing right now. We're automating AI. With AI, we're automating education, healthcare, who gets seen, who gets lost, who gets flagged, loan approvals, everything. But that's not the solution. We really need to slow down, and how we can do that. There are 3 commitments, 3 things that I'm really hoping that you can take away from my talk is, in your next product meeting, in your next system design, in your next review meeting, just slow down and think, who does this quietly disadvantage? Who are the people most likely to be overlooked before we actually start building a design? And then, when we're about to build a product, just go and test it with people that are most likely to struggle with. Those that don't have English as their first language. Those that don't have anyone at home to seek help. Those that might need a little bit more time to think. And they might need a little bit more context as well. Those are your power users, not your teammates in your meeting, not people who look like you, people that might struggle the most, because if you have designed for them, you have designed for everyone. And if it doesn't work for them, then you already found your real design problem. And the third, build the pausing. Like, think about my father, the same appointment, in the same room, same nurse, but on the intake form, not buried on page 6, but on the first page, there's a question that says, was there something that I need to ask about, I need to know about how you communicate that I haven't thought to ask? So then my father would answer with his dignity intact, with a little bit more time, without feeling rushed or like a checklist. And we live in a very fascinating time in history right now. We have access to so many things with AI. But at the end of the day, we're implementing empathy as infrastructure. We're not only going to ship faster systems, we're going to develop systems